Episode 2 opens right after the death of Jace, killed in battle along with his dragon. At that moment, Bela, riding Moondancer, was helping wipe out the remaining Triarchy forces, alongside Hugh and Ulf, who had arrived from Harrenhal, and together the four riders destroyed the enemy fleet. Even in victory, Bela was devastated over losing her betrothed Jace, and once the fighting ended, the group carried his body back to Dragonstone. There, Rhaenyra's royal guard was overcome with grief at the sight of the fallen prince, since though they had won, they had lost their future king. Rhaenyra arrived and refused to accept her son was gone, pleading with him to get up, but he never did, and her heart broke completely at having now lost both her sons. The guard who had failed to protect Jace offered her his sword and asked her to kill him, but Rhaenyra said his death wouldn't bring Jace back, and that the fault lay with the whole council, who knew Jace was riding into battle alone, yet had not stood by her. She then wept beside her son's body. Meanwhile at high tide, the Velaryon forces struck back at the Triarchy for burning and looting the stronghold, while Aelin searched for his missing father Corlys. At the same time, in the Vale, Queen Jane found that Rhaenys had arrived on her dragon Meleys, having flown into the battle without permission and unable to fully control her dragon there. Jane scolded her for disobeying orders to go to Pentos, warning she could not stay since the queen would soon come after her. But Rhaenys argued no one had seen her, and offered to protect the Vale from Vhagar herself if he ever came, since Jane had no dragon of her own. Jane relented, letting her hide anywhere in the Vale, as long as she stayed clear of the castle. Outside Harrenhal, Daemon was celebrating with the Stark and Strong forces after defeating the Lannisters, whose lion banner now hung mockingly from the walls. And Simon Strong brought wine for the soldiers to celebrate a victory unlike any in years. When Simon delivered Rhaenyra's message, Daemon was struck with grief on learning his son had died. He told the assembled lords he was heading to King's Landing to seize the Iron Throne, ordering them to meet him in the south, leave a small garrison to hold Harrenhal, and kill anyone in their way, promising dragons for their protection once the capital fell. The lords cheered, and Daemon left on Caraxes, meeting Alys Rivers, who wanted Harrenhal itself as reward for sending 400 rivermen to help the queen, believing she deserved the castle no one else had ruled happily from. Daemon refused, saying neither she nor her husband were of royal blood, so Rhaenyra would never grant it, though he promised another reward. Alys retorted that fine gifts wouldn't satisfy her, and that since he'd broken his word, he should never return, and Daemon left without another word. Meanwhile on the shore, Alan ran into Bela, also searching for Corlys, and she described his father as strict, but deeply loving, adding that he had always cared for his sons, even if it hadn't seemed that way. Alan said his father had never truly reached out to them, and Bela, still grieving Jace, said she couldn't bear to lose anyone else. Soon they spotted sea smoke overhead, ridden by Alan's brother Adam, also searching, and together they found Corlys on the shore, badly wounded but alive. Elsewhere, Aegon was being marched away as a captive, alongside Larys, furious that Larys had exposed his identity. But when another force attacked their captors, Aegon killed a guard with a hidden knife and freed them both, declaring he needed to reach Rook's Rest, where Criston Cole's army would still follow his orders. Corlys, rescued by his sons, said wealth no longer mattered, since he'd lost so much, but was grateful his sons and granddaughter remained, and finally gave them his family name, which Alan said meant more than any fortune. In King's Landing, Alicent realized Aegon and Vhagar had already fled, and went to warn Sir Luther of the Goldcloaks that Rhaenyra would soon arrive with her dragons, ordering him and his men to follow her and Queen Helena's orders, instead of resisting, since Rhaenyra intended to take the throne and restore peace. Luther called it treason, but Alicent said it no longer mattered. Back at Dragonstone, Daemon returned to find Ulf and Hugh there, and struck Ulf in fury for abandoning Harrenhal, though Hugh explained Aemond had never shown up, and a strange woman, described as being like a witch, had told them they were needed in the battle instead. Daemon stormed off to find Mysaria, who told him Rhaenyra didn't want to speak with anyone. He accused her of betraying him and scheming for the throne herself, but she said Rhaenyra now trusted her completely, and admitted she still didn't fully understand what had happened with Aemond or the exact deal between Rhaenyra and Alicent, only that she herself didn't trust Alicent the way Rhaenyra did. Daemon agreed Alicent couldn't be fully trusted despite their old friendship. Just then word came that Vhagar had left King's Landing for the Riverlands, confirming Alicent had kept her promise, and Daemon said he'd tell Rhaenyra himself. Meanwhile Alicent, ignoring Sir Rickard's warning about the danger of walking alone, went to speak with the rest of the council. Daemon returned to Rhaenyra and told her Jace had always been ready to die for her, and that was exactly what he'd done. She said bitterly that he'd never once listened to her, and Daemon replied every son is the same, adding that a wild dragon like the one that killed Jace shouldn't have been ridden by just anyone, so someone must have tamed it. Rhaenyra revealed Bela had seen a rider on its back, meaning Daemon needed to find out who it was. He told her Vhagar had left the capital, And though she was stunned, Alicent had truly honored their bargain. She remained heartbroken over the sons she'd lost for the crown she was about to gain. Daemon told her their deaths couldn't be wasted, that he'd seen Targaryen visions at Harrenhal, foretelling the Song of Ice and Fire could only be completed once she sat the Iron Throne, and that a future Targaryen queen with 3 dragons of her own would come after her. So she needed to claim the throne now, just as her father had wished. Meanwhile, Sir Gawain confronted Alicent, accusing her of treason for secretly meeting Rhaenyra, and revealing he knew about her past affair with Criston Cole. Then tried to assault her, but the Grand Maester arrived with guards just in time. Gawain quickly claimed Alicent was conspiring with the Goldcloaks, and the guards arrested him instead for attacking her. The Maester told Alicent he knew nothing of what she'd actually done, but warned she should be first to flee if danger came, and she agreed. Rhaenyra and Daemon then briefed the remaining small council on their plan to seize King's Landing with 4 dragons. Despite the council's fear, Daemon vowed to stay by the queen's side, and Rhaenyra said she no longer cared if it was a trap. Mysaria presented Rhaenyra with her crown, reminding her of her loyalty. And as Rhaenyra moved forward, Daemon sensed something unspoken between the 2 women, though Rhaenyra ignored him. With Ulf and Hugh rejoining them, Daemon ordered the 2 riders to circle the skies and watch for danger after the capital fell, warning them sternly not to disobey again, and the 4 dragons launched toward King's Landing. Meanwhile, Alicent told Helaena that Rhaenyra was coming, that Gawain had betrayed them, and that Helaena, as queen, needed to order the remaining Goldcloaks not to attack the incoming dragons. Helaena, wanting peace as much as Alicent did, agreed. When their commander Ford resisted, citing Aemon's standing order to kill any dragon but Vhagar, Alicent warned that with Aegon and Aemond both gone, resisting Rhaenyra would mean she'd burn the whole city, and Ford was forced to comply. Meanwhile, Vhagar flew toward Harrenhal, and Aemond, arriving in a rage, burned the surrounding camps and butchered his way through the castle guards before confronting Simon Strong in the council chamber. Simon, unarmed for years, knelt and pledged obedience. But Aemond killed him anyway for having sided with Daemon. Simon's sons fought back, and though Aemond killed them too, one wounded him badly before dying, and Alice Rivers arrived to help the bleeding half-conscious Aemond, marking the start of an unlikely alliance between them. Back in King's Landing, the 4 dragons appeared overhead, and the guards threw down their weapons in terror as the city panicked. Daemon and Rhaenyra landed near the castle and advanced on foot, finding many guards had already surrendered, confirming Alicent had delivered on her word. Pushing through green loyalists, who attacked along the way, with Daemon cutting down all who resisted, they finally reached the throne room, only to be surrounded by Aegon's remaining supporters who refused to hand him over, until a massive gold-cloaked force arrived, and their commander Luther revealed he had remained loyal to Daemon for 20 years, and the loyalists were forced to surrender their weapons. Rhaenyra thanked Luther, who explained Daemon himself had given the Goldcloaks their honor decades earlier, and she declared she intended to kill Aegon herself before taking the throne. Daemon searched Aegon's chambers, where the Grand Maester revealed Aegon had already fled, explaining he had only served whoever sat the throne, and now pledged loyalty to Rhaenyra. Daemon let him go. Meanwhile, Alicent and Helaena fled the city on foot, being followed by suspicious men in the streets. Back in the castle, Daemon freed prisoners Aegon had jailed, and a guard told him Larys had left him a gift, which delighted him into laughter when he saw it. Rhaenyra then met her loyal supporters, apologizing for their suffering, as guards brought in the captured Sir Gawain and a hidden prisoner, Otto Hightower, whom Larys had secretly kept locked away without anyone's knowledge. Enraged, Rhaenyra watched as Daemon forced Otto to kneel and told her that although Aegon had escaped, she could still execute Otto here, reminding her that as queen she could no longer appear weak, and needed to prove her strength. Trembling with fear, Rhaenyra hesitated, and Otto said he'd rather not die by an unsteady blade, and let Daemon do it. But Daemon handed her the sword anyway. Shaking, she struck Otto across the throat, and finished the execution herself. Daemon then beheaded Sir Gawain as well, unwilling to let any Hightower loyalist survive. Rhaenyra walked through Otto's blood to the Iron Throne, sat down, and declared herself queen, with Daemon watching proudly as she finally claimed her long-fought destiny. At that exact moment, guards brought in the captured Helaena and Alicent, who froze at the sight of Otto's severed head, and Rhaenyra, staring back at Alicent in shock, brought the episode to its dramatic close.